Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Hello, I am Paulo D of the MMA Opinion, and today I am joined on the line by Miranda Maverick. Miranda fights Gillian Robertson in the opening bout of this weekend's UFC 258 card. How are you doing, Miranda?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Very good. I do have to touch on your opponent, Gillian Robertson. Both your skill sets lean heavy towards the grappling. Do you see this fight being a heavily based grappling fight, or are you hoping to keep it on the feet like you did in your UFC debut?
There's really no hope either way. I see it as being kind of back and forth on the ground and standing up. I have a feeling that she's going to do her best to take me to the ground. And if it gets to the ground, that's perfectly fine by me. We'll fight on the ground. But I just want to be the best, well-rounded version of me I can. So use my striking, use my grappling up against the cage, all of it.
Yeah, and Gillian does have a couple of big wins. She has a win over Courtney Casey, of course, and Hannah Cyphers. Is this the kind of caliber of name you were looking for in this fight? Or after this fight, I suppose, are you looking for a big name in that division to move up towards the rankings?
At this point, I've called out a couple people, but at the same time, I would be fine with newcomers as well, just so I could keep getting my record up, take my time as I work up the division and play it smart. I feel like right now I'm still young and working my way up. I haven't yet met my peak, and I want to be at my peak as far as both income with my next contract, hopefully, and as far as with opponents. So after this, though, I do anticipate if I beat her, they'll give me a top 15 girl, and that's fine with me too.
Very good. And I do want to touch on your debut as well. You competed against Liana Jojua, and you won that fight by doctor stoppage in the first round. Now, I know I can only speak for myself, but I was expecting to see more of the grappling in your opening bout in the UFC, and you kind of leaned heavy towards your striking. Is that something that you worked heavily on coming into this? I know, obviously, you're coming from a Muay Thai gym, but it was just a little unexpected to see you go straight in with the striking heavy game.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on my striking for a couple of years now, being at the gym that I'm at, and it was finally just a good opportunity to show it. I wasn't intimidated by Liana at all on the ground either, but I thought she had no avenue whatsoever to beat me on the feet. So we decided to just keep it standing, and if it went to the ground, that was fine too. I was going to be trying to do a takedown at the end of that round, but there was no sense in it. And beat her up on the feet. Once I saw that it was making damage, there was no reason to take it to the ground.
Yeah, of course. And I believe that was your first TKO stoppage in professional MMA, was it?
Yes, that's correct.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And I do want to point to another fight on the card. You have Macy Barber against Alexa Grasso, also on the UFC 258 card, in the co-main event. And two girls that are both young girls in the division, but hot prospects in the division. Is that a fight that you'll be watching closely and perhaps maybe see it with a big win as an next opponent for yourself?
That's possible that would be the case. Yes, I think that that's very likely. In fact, with the way people are talking and what fans are asking for my next fight. Right now, though, to be honest, I'm looking at the fight ahead of me. I don't want to get too far ahead or be cocky in that sense. I see this as the hardest fight going forward that I've ever had. I always walk into a fight like that, no matter how much I, respect or disrespect my opponent. But Gillian is a very well-rounded and respectable girl. She trains a lot and she trains hard. So I'm walking into the fight with that one in mind, but the Macy Grasso fight is a very interesting one. I'll definitely be watching and rewatching that one.
Yeah. Can we expect a call out after the say it's a victory?
Maybe,
can we expect a call out?
Maybe of a couple people. I can't necessarily say what I'll say right after the fight. Usually that's just a very emotional time for me and talk about whatever comes to mind, but I'll definitely talk about it in the interviews after.
Very good. I do want to touch on as well Stephen A. Smith's comments recently in he made some passing comment about not wanting to watch women's MMA and he doesn't believe it belongs in the UFC. I just want to get your opinion on that, being obviously a female fighter in the UFC and a prospect at that.
To be honest, I'm kind of taking Frank Smear road to this one. I've been asked this several times already. I think he's a piece of crap who doesn't really need any attention from anyone. Stick to his sport. That's completely fine. If he doesn't want women's MMA, that's his own opinion. There's no reason to give him any mind or give him attention from it. That's all he's seeking.
That's true. And do you believe, I know you don't really want to talk about it, but do you believe he has any place at all in MMA himself?
No, not at all. I've absolutely loved Angela Hill's Instagram post that she made mocking it, but I really don't think he has much of a road in the UFC or MMA for that matter. But you know, each person can try on their own. If he wants to waste time and do that, maybe that's karma for his comments.
Of course. I do want to go back to your past a little bit, and I know you get a lot of your strength, or at least you say you get a lot of your strength from growing up on a farm, and you're very close to your family, and I believe your father is actually going to be in your corner for this fight as well. You're
Yes,
obviously
he is.
excited to have your father in the corner, but can you tell me a little bit about why you believe your strength comes from growing up on a farm and kind of your relationship with your father?
There's a huge difference between muscle gain from lifting weights when you're older, like 18 to early 20s, which is when most people get involved with weightlifting and get really into their fitness. Even younger years when they're in sports in high school, that's very different than being 2, 3 years old, roughhousing around. And then as you get young or a little bit older, 8, 10, you're carrying big buckets of feed, sacks of feed, you know, wrestling with cows, trying to hold them down. Like, that kind of strength can't be taught once you've
Yeah.
already developed. My bones, I feel like my whole family is just, I mean, you can look at kind of how we're doing, not only in sports, but just in life. You know, we've got a very physical strength about us that most kids, most people don't have. Part of that's genetics. My dad built the way that he is and everything. But the other part is that hard work on a farm and stuff that, especially in this day and age, most people don't do.
Yeah.
And then,
sorry, go on.
sorry, I was going to touch on my father's relationship as well. He is my favorite person. He's my hero. He's my idol. And he's turned me into everything I am, basically. I give him credit for the bad and the good. Hopefully I don't have too much bad that represents him, you know, but he is in my corner for this fight. He encouraged me into MMA. I wouldn't say that he told me to do it by any means, but he was definitely supportive of it. Started out teaching me self-defense, which involved jujitsu. And that's kind of where I started out with this.
Yeah, and he wrote a poem for you. I do want to just read that to you and get your kind of a reaction to it. I know obviously you know the poem, but just to see your reaction and what it means to you. The poem is, I am neither the enemy they fear nor the hero they cheer. I am the river that carves canyons, the glacier that forms mountains, the sun that melts snow, grows gardens and burns the desert. I am gentle and destructive. I am the wind that blows cold, driving snow and rain, or the wind that dries the tears from your face. I am the fiercest storm or the heart-warming rainbow. I have a fire that will burn my opponents and leave them in the ashes. I am a maverick, the maverick. Come February 13th, you should fear this maverick. What does that mean to you?
To be honest, my dad has wrote a lot of different poems for me, but that one kind of struck the heart just because it was not only so good, like he's such a good writer when he wants to be, but also just that's who he is, you know, that's how he feels about me, about my family. That is what I feel in my heart. And we talk about it a lot. If anything, he's my mental coach, you know, and I have those two sides. I think everybody does, but I feel like it's easy for me to flip that switch. I always have people that are like, how do you fight? You're so nice, you know, like what? And they always expect something different when they meet me for the first time. They're like, you know, they see me in the gym and I have all these newer people at the gym. They're intimidated by me or scared because when I'm in the gym during fight camps, especially, I'm just very serious, very driven, very focused. I don't talk to anybody. I don't smile. Like it's just, I'm getting my work done.
In the zone.
But then other times, yeah, exactly. But then every other time, I'm joking, I'm laughing, I'm having so much fun in there. And they're just like, what, who are you? You know, like, and I'm like, I've got two sides, you know, there's two sides to everyone, but being able to have such a public two-sided thing, I guess, like having this fierce side of me that goes in there and fights people for a living. And then the other part of me, like I'm very driven by God. I'm very driven by trying my best to be a moral, good person out there and inspire people. I think that's kind of what inspired him to write the poem. And in his own way, he lives that life too. And he's raised me, my brother and sister, to have that fire within us, to have a passion to go do things.
Yeah, so obviously you see it as a psychological advantage having your father in your corner. And is this something we're going to see forward for the rest of your career?
Absolutely. He was only not in Abu Dhabi because of a passport issue, and I hope he's able to make it to every single one of my fights from now on. He is not only the mental coach and the person that motivates me being there, but like I said before, I feel like I represent everyone around me, and I want to represent him the best.
Very good. And I did see your brother, Brock, is the captain of the wrestling team in his high school as well, or in college, sorry.
High school.
High school, apologies, yes. Do you see him transitioning into MMA and following your footsteps, or do you think he's got a different career path ahead of him?
I actually have a little brother and sister that are both team captains of their wrestling team. So my sister's in
Apologies.
no, you're fine. I want to mention her too. She's the captain of the girls team. He's the captain of the boys team. They've both went undefeated in their weight class this year. And they're moving up the ranks, going to be competing in state wrestling this year. And they're both juniors in high school. I think they both had careers if they would have wanted to. We're kind of discouraging Brock from that route just because he's a bigger guy and you can get hurt so much worse.
Yeah.
So much harder for a guy to make it in MMA. I'm just going to be honest about that one. There's a lot more competition.
Of course.
And you get hurt a lot worse in those higher weight classes, even in amateurs when they're not paying your insurance or paying you to fight. So he has other goals in life. I've kind of posted about him before. He has his own business already and he's working his way through life very well and has a lot of options. My sister, she may, who knows? I'm still trying to get her to try it out, but they both want to go to college for wrestling, if nothing else.
So it could be a family dynasty in the UFC in a few years' time. We don't know. I do want to just finally touch on the After the Cage documentary that you were a part of quite recently, and tell me a little bit about your involvement in that and what your part was in that.
I'll actually be flying to Michigan pretty soon to go be a part of that grand opening that they'll have. But I'm really excited about it. They kind of look at people who have retired from MMA and how their life is after the cage, hence the title. And so there's Matt Hughes, there's Dan Severn, there's a lot of people in there that are retired, and then they kind of shift it. And I think that I'm going to be that transitioning person because I kind of have that farming background and stuff. And the video and documentary was taken on my family's farm that Matt Hughes has, and then transition into kind of the rise of another part of MMA, which is women's MMA. And so just kind of talk about the newcomers into the sport and the new generation. And I'm very honored to have been included in that. I think I bring a different aspect than a lot of women do to the UFC. So there's me, and then there's Alicia Zapatella and Brooke Mayo, I believe. And so we're going to be in there and hopefully get to meet everybody. Matt Hughes has actually been one of the first people I ever watched. Jim was really into in UFC. Especially with his fights against GSP and everything. So really kept an eye on them when I was young and not even in the sport yet. So pretty exciting.
Very good. And it can't hurt as well for your own publicity and your own PR to be involved in something so big. I suppose that just before I do let you go, what is next for you after a victory here? Like you say, you're looking for a bigger opponent. Are we expecting you to maybe aim for that top 15 next? Or are you hoping to get another couple in before you get to the top 15?
Part of me wants a couple in, but like I said, it's kind of up to the matchmakers. If they want to give me a couple little lower ranked fights so that I can work my way up, get another contract, and then fight the top 15, it's fine by me. But I really don't anticipate I'm going to have that chance. Once you get in and you start fighting top girls, you're going to be fighting only top girls. So I would anticipate fighting an next top 15er. I will be calling out a couple top 15 girls. So I'm excited for that. And I'm really ready for whatever the future holds. I only see a couple girls even giving me trouble within the flyweight division right now. And I plan on showing that the 13th.
Very good. It's interesting you mentioned there about not moving up right away, because we talked to Joe Solecki quite recently enough, and he did mention as well that he wanted a fight per his contract. So he didn't want to move up into the top 15 right away because of the contract he was on. And he wanted to be paid, I suppose, to be fighting those top 15 fights. It does make sense in a sense to be on a bigger contract when you're going up against the ranked opponents.
Well, I just don't want to win a fight and them get twice as much as me when they lose.
Of course, yeah.
So, it doesn't not only make sense to me, but I think you need to know your worth to some extent. Mind you, UFC pays better than other MMA, and I'm not whining about my pay. I don't want to be, I don't want that to be taken that way. But I know that I need to work my way up to better pay, and I would like to do that before I just get thrown into the fire.
Thrown to the wolves, exactly. And we always ask our guests on the MMA opinion to tell us something they don't know about you. So what don't we know about Miranda Fear the Maverick?
I started my own pencil sketching business at the age of 11. I'm actually pretty good at drawing like realistic portraits of people, and I haven't had time in the last couple of years too much because of grad school and everything. But it used to be a huge focus of mine, and I love it. I love doing it in my free time.
Very good. Hopefully we can get a couple of them up on social so we can check them out. Listen, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the line today, Miranda, and best of skills on Saturday.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.